Houston enters their first year in the Big 12, and it'll be a fun season to watch for Dana Holgerson for many reasons. We're going to see a team that comes from the group of five to a Power Five conference, and the 10 guys we'll talk about today could give us a glimpse of what the future is for this team. We start with the transfer in Josh Cobbs. The Wyoming transfer comes in at 6'4", has good size to his frame. He is someone who I believe could be a major impact player. We just don't know what we're getting. There's a lot of transfers that come into Houston and could, like I said, have a big impact on this team. It's just a matter of how do they find chemistry with whoever is throwing them the football and in this system. Dana's done a good job of bringing in talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball. When you lose a talent like Tank Dell and then you lose Clayton Tune at quarterback, you need guys to step up. You also need to bring in talent to compete, and he's done that very well. A guy that kind of flew under the radar last year, had kind of a breakout year, was Stacy Snead. I don't know if you call a 500-yard season a breakout season, but he was someone that was a reliable player and an explosive weapon, averaged 6 yards per carry, and that was in a group that featured multiple players carrying the football. Stacy Snead has good quickness to him, and we saw him get utilized in the passing game a little bit too. So that's something to keep an eye on. Could he be the feature back? You look at what they have returning. They get Stacy Snead. They have Tony Mathis from West Virginia. They have Brandon Campbell, the former USC transfer. They have plenty of talented players that can run the football. It's just a matter of who's going to get the touches and how efficient can you be. Snead was one of the more efficient players on this team last year that wasn't named Tank Dell. So that's something to keep an eye on. The defense also added some talent, and they need it. Adari Halsey comes in from New Mexico, the Houston native, had a big year for the Lobos and turned that into a Power Five opportunity. He comes in at 6 feet, 215 pounds, and he is going to contribute to a group that finished 122nd in passing last year. So this is a group that needs to get better. Doug Belk is at one point was considered one of the up and coming coordinators, and I think that's still there. It's just a matter of how do you handle this new level of competition. It's going to be a tough year because you're facing a lot more talented teams, but getting a guy like Halsey to come to Houston to be able to elevate this defense will be a big key in determining how successful Houston is as a team. The front seven shouldn't be too much of a problem. The linebackers probably be the biggest question, but the front line will be solid. They will be a tough group to beat. Cedric Williams comes back, and he is back to being 100% after some injury issues, but he is someone who is super underrated, flies under the radar in all of college football, even within the group of five. He is not someone that people talk about a lot, but he has that explosiveness. He has that power to handle life in the trenches, and we will see how he handles a transition to the Power Five. A big name they brought in from the transfer portal is Donovan Smith, the Texas Tech quarterback who actually gave Houston plenty of nightmares when they faced him last year. Hit the transfer portal, joins the Cougs, and brings good size at 6'5", 241 pounds. And if you watch some of the clips of him competing with the other quarterbacks, he makes all those other quarterbacks look so small. So the size is definitely there. The athleticism is there. The passing potential is there as well. You look at what Dana Holgerson has done for his quarterbacks, and I think Donovan Smith takes a step forward. And I think the biggest thing is going to be how do you improve that touchdown to interception ratio? 12 touchdowns to 8 picks last year. If he can even make that slightly better, this will be a interesting offense to watch. The offense has some questions after losing some talented players, still should be really good. The defense has the talent. They also have some questions. But when you look at a talent like Nelson Caesar, a guy who finally got his opportunity to showcase his talents, losing Derek Parrish obviously hurt when he went down with an injury, but it gave guys like Caesar just opportunities to step up. 10 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, a player who can be really disruptive around the edge, and someone who I think is just getting started in terms of what he can do. We'll see what that means for the future. He gets plenty of opportunities to face some really good tackles, and he gets to face one in practice every week. So that shouldn't be too intimidating. Patrick Paul is a potential first round pick in the NFL draft. At 6'7", 315 pounds, it's easy to see why. The talent is there, the length is there, and it's just a matter of consistency. It's also a matter of keeping your head on straight. But this is one of the most talented tackles, one of the most talented players in college football. It's just a matter of how quickly does that bandwagon grow? Because right now it's pretty small. It's been small for a while because people don't pay attention to the group of five. They don't pay attention to Houston, but they will pay attention soon enough. And you're going to see a player in Patrick Paul who is nasty, who can bring the physicality to his opponent. And even if they're ready or not, he's going to bring it. It's just a matter of how much success does he find, because he is a really good player. And if his matchup is not ready, they're in for a long night. A player they brought in from the transfer portal, and they'll look at his NFL future by making him switch positions, is David Ogagu. 109 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss at Oklahoma as a linebacker. They bring him in. Coach Brian Early, the defensive line coach, brings him in and says, "Hey, you're going to defensive end." And it's one thing I've learned about Brian Early is one of the most underrated coaches in college football at his position, probably just in general. Ryan really has done a phenomenal job of elevating players. You look what he did with Derek Parrish, another guy. If you're looking for a guy to use as a reference for making that transition from linebacker to defensive end, Derek Parrish is the perfect example of that. Now you bring in a guy like Ogagu, who's 6'4", 250 pounds, fits that mold a little bit better. And I'm terrified for opposing tackles and what they're going to face in him. There's plenty of explosive options for this team. And another one that is on the interior, another super underrated player in terms of college football, one who is not getting the love that he deserves, is Chidozie Nwanko. The production just isn't there. And it's not a knock on him. It's not a negative thing for him. He is doing everything in his power to literally power to make plays. It's just that teams put so much attention his way because he's so disruptive, because he's so powerful. Maybe doesn't have the size that you want at 5'11", 295 pounds, but he understands leverage. He understands how to be explosive. His first step and his power that he brings in his frame is what helps him stand apart from the rest. You're going to be able to find plenty of success with the way that he plays. And eventually someone's going to notice. But for now, he is one of the most underrated players at his position and in college football. And teams will find out soon enough that a Houston player wearing number 10 that plays the interior defensive line, who's not named Ed Oliver, can also play some really good ball. Another number 10 that we'll talk about here, best player on the team right now, and that could change. But right now, Matthew Golden has a great opportunity, a golden opportunity to be able to take over for Tank Dell. He is a former 4-star recruit that chose Houston over a lot of schools to stay home. And I think that he's going to be the one they look at to take over that Tank Dell role. Now, he's probably not going to be Tank Dell. I think that that's a different type of talent, but I really like what he learned from Tank Dell. You saw a lot of what he could do for this offense if he was the featured player. He learned a lot from what Tank Dell did and how to be a featured player. And it's just a matter of taking that step forward. There's obviously a lot of moving parts, a lot of new faces coming in. And it's just a matter of how do they find chemistry together? How do they find that cohesiveness? And how do they take their game to a new level? Because Houston is a team that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. A lot of people expect them to be kind of at the bottom of the Big 12. It's easy to see why, but the talent is there, the potential is there, and it's just a matter of how does Dana Holgerson elevate this team to reach the heights that they need to reach to be successful.